Hey everyone, Jason here from Off the Beaten Path. As you can probably tell from the voice, I have been a bit crook recently, had a dose of COVID. We're here at Lake Buffalo in the shadow of Mount Buffalo, about to head off on another trip, January 2024, first trip for the year. So we've got Paul in his FJ, Luca in his Nissan Patrol. Yeah, you can tell I've been crook, I can't even speak. And me, of course, bringing the Land Cruiser 76, and Dan from out there with Dan joining us on this one as well. He's got the furthest to travel today, so he'll be along shortly, and we'll get underway. Looking forward to it. The weather looks a bit interesting, so could be some challenging days ahead on the track. So as always, a few people down here enjoying Lake Buffalo. So anyway, we'll get organised and get into it. As always, guys, thanks for watching.
Hey everyone, Jason here from Off the Beaten Path, recording this a bit later, so well and truly over COVID by now. So today's trip, as you just saw, we're starting off at Lake Buffalo. There's me, Dan, Paul and Luca, the usual suspects. We're heading from Lake Buffalo. We take the Buffalo River Road. We were going to take Yarrabulla Creek Track down the back here, but that was shut. So yeah, we take Buffalo River Road, round to the SEC track, and then on to Yarrabulla Creek Track, which long-time followers of the channel will have seen us drive several times. This is my first time driving in the 76. It has been reworked as well, so it's a lot more drivable than it used to be. The bog holes are largely gone. The big rock step at one of the little river crossings is gone, so it's a lot easier drive. Still very steep and still very, very scenic. So Yarrabulla Creek Track up to the Yarrabuck Track, which leads into one of the best spur line drives I think anywhere in the high country. We follow Yarrabuck Track down onto Buffalo Range Track, which continues as a spur track. This is a really great drive. We've got some excellent footage coming up for you as well. And then that takes us around to the Selwyn Five-Ways, at least that's what I call it, where a number of the tracks link up. And then we duck around the side of Mt Selwyn. A lot of roadwork's been done here as well. This is almost a highway now. And then follow the Mt Selwyn Summit Track up to the summit. Summit Track is in pretty ordinary condition. Certainly was at the time of filming this, and I doubt that has changed. So guys, epic trip. Can't wait to get in and show this one to you, so let's get into it. So guys, here we are heading off from Lake Buffalo. I was pumped for this trip. Yarrabulla Creek Track is always a lot of fun, and it's the first time. All the guys on this trip have never done it before. If you've been a long time follower of the channel, you've seen me do it, or at least try to do it a few times. It's been 50-50. Since then, a lot of work's been done on the track, so it's a very different track to what it used to be. Bog holes and everything are all gone. So yeah, looking forward to it. So obviously here we're heading out of the Lake Buffalo parking area onto the main road to head around the lake. We were going to take the track down the east side of the lake, but that was closed. So taking the bitumen up over the dam wall. It's one of the few dams where there is actually a public road that you can drive over the top of the dam wall anytime you want. Some great views, particularly times like this when there is a fair amount of water in the lake. So yeah, it's quite a nice drive. Some footage here from Luca following along behind. So just passing the gate apparatus there on the dam wall and heading around. So as you saw on the map, we followed the bitumen down to the SEC track. A little bit of a shot there on the left of frame where you can see down the lake to the mountains in the distance. Now I didn't film a lot more of that. Most of you guys will have seen that on previous videos, and it's a bitumen road, so there's no sort of track conditions worth reporting on. So a few k's down past the lake, we start the SEC track. It's on the left hand side, as you just saw, as you come down on the bitumen heading south. And the SEC track will run you into Goldie Spur Track ultimately, which will get you across to the Buckland Valley if that's where you want to go. It'll also get you to the Yarrabuck Track and affords some of the best views of Mount Buffalo anywhere. Now you can see why it's called the SEC track. Now look, this is generally in pretty good condition. It's a gravel road and is kept pretty well maintained. It is a maintenance access road for the power lines along here. Some steep drop-offs on the side. There's Mount Buffalo. As I said, some of the best views of Mount Buffalo anywhere along this track. There's several points where you get some great views like that. And yeah, before not too very long, we've made our way down to the bottom of the valley. I didn't include a lot of the SEC track because again, you guys have seen that before and it doesn't change a whole lot. So this is the start of the Yarrabulla Creek Track. Even right here, there used to be some bog holes. So I believe it's forestry that have come in here and done all the upgrade work to this. And you'll see as we go through, this track is super drivable now. It is not seasonally closed. I still think in winter it'd be interesting. Maybe it's something we look to do a winter run, see if we can see some snow, although time could be running out for that already. So you can see, look, this start of the track, it's basically two-wheel drive, a little bit of a soft spot just here. I think that'll evolve over time and probably get soft again. Today was one of those days where we kind of almost got the four seasons in one day. We didn't really know what the weather was doing. It started off clear back at Lake Buffalo, then we got this little bit of rain setting in, and we were worried this was going to be the case for the whole day. This has always been a steep little pinch here. This hasn't changed a whole lot. Maybe it's been graded a little bit, but you do want to take this slow. If you're driving a wagon or a ute and you've got a tow bar, there it is. You're going to hit the tow bar on that departure, pretty much guaranteed. It's just down and back up really steep. Not difficult to drive, but you just got to take it slow. You can see here, this has all been graded. This was a section that used to be quite boggy and muddy, and they've done what they can to build the road up and push the water off the sides. So for now, at least, the track itself is in pretty good condition. You can see a decent drainage ditch there on the left-hand side. How long it'll stay like this is anybody's guess, but I dare say we'll be driving it again. This track, as you saw on the map, leads up to the Yarrabuck Track, which leads up to the Buffalo Spur Track or the Buffalo Range Track. And to me, it is one of the best spur drives in the high country anywhere. So nice little steep climb here. Again, traction has always been good on this section. It's before we cross the river, it's sort of, this section deviates away from the river when we go up over a hill before coming back down to the river. And there's several river crossings before we get across to the main hill on the other side and commence climbing. So this is, you know, compared to what we've got coming, this is not even a hill, but it's a little bit of a taste of things to come. As you can see here, the track is in really good condition, so a nice easy drive, plenty of traction. So keeping in mind at this point, still running the all-terrain tyres, the road terrain tyres, the Dunlop Road Chiefs or Bridgestone Road Chiefs or whatever they were. I have actually had them off the vehicle now for a little while. So this January trip, I think, was the last one that I did with these tyres, and as you'll see on later parts of this trip, we certainly found their limit on this trip, that's for sure. So nice little steep descent. What goes up must come down. Good opportunity to utilise low range gearing and engine braking to control this descent. And making our way back down to the base of the valley and also back down to the river. super smooth there on my gear changes. Not. So just coming up here on the first of the river or creek crossings, and this is the Yarrabulla Creek that we're crossing here. It's one of the creeks that flows back north and feeds into Lake Buffalo. And some footage here from Luca on that same little crossing, following Dan and Paul through.
Yarrabulla Creek Track.
Tight little spot around that fallen tree that, as always, is cut just wide enough to get your vehicle through. And once again, not very long, and we're coming up to another crossing. So in all the times I've done this, these crossings have never been deep and never been treacherous. There used to be some tricky exits, but again, that has all changed dramatically, as you'll see. So most of them now are just nice, easy crossings like that. Even if they're a bit deeper, they're not going to present any great difficulty. And they do come sort of thick and fast. We're coming up here on the third crossing, I think, already. Nice steep little approach here, as you can see. Just me looking to get my gearing right there, and a nice easy exit. It's only a few months since these works were done. This track was closed for 6 or 8 months. I did try and drive it in the patch one time, and for those of you that watched that video last year, and this was closed at that time for works. Didn't even edit that one because it is literally that quick, and we're down to the next crossing of this river. Another nice steep descent. This used to be a little bit off camber, but again, they've sort of smoothed that out. It's a very pretty drive through here, and a lot easier than it used to be. So look, I highly recommend this track to anyone. You know, I'm not sure the guys really had to bother with their lockers. I obviously don't have lockers or traction control and had no issues in the 76. So yeah, Paul coming through now in his FJ, that same little crossing. You can see that rock just up on the driver's side of the vehicle there as you cross. Definitely not a deep crossing at all. And Dan making short work of it as well. Taking it easy over that stick that he's just found on the track there. Not even up to his side steps. And of course, that's not the last crossing. This is one that has changed dramatically from what it used to be. It's sort of straight across. It used to be that you would very definitely drive down the track. You can see I've inset some footage there from 2022 showing you just how different this used to be, where you definitely drove down, and then coming out there was a massive big rock step that was pretty challenging. This has all been graded, the rocks are gone, so you can see today in the main field we're having no trouble at all. You can see there in the patch from 2022 It's lifting wheels, left, right and centre. And just doesn't really want to have a bar of it. Had a couple of goes at this. And yeah, it's probably even hard to tell from that footage just how big a rock step that was, but I did end up winching up that, as did almost everybody on that trip with me. The one exception was Sam and his MUX. I think he's one of the few people that's got a heavier right foot than me, and he decided his car was going to go up, and it did. So yeah, you just saw there the old track going up the hill to the left. So this section of the track, I believe, is all new. They've sort of closed that steeper section. It does join back onto the old track. They've just pushed it around the side here, followed the line of the river, and made it a little bit less steep. So just coming up here to one of those 180-degree turns that are present on so many tracks in the high country. Just managed to make that on one wheel lock with the turning circle of the 70 series. Certainly does need a little bit more room than the pads to turn, that's for sure. This was always kind of a rocky section of track, but again, it's been graded and is in much better condition than it used to be. And we're just about getting to the section where there's a few hills. So this first one coming up is really what we would call the hill before the hill. A lot of times I've brought people on this track and I've talked to them about, you know, oh, after all the river crossings are done, there's a big steep hill, and we get to this one and I go, oh, is that it? No, this is not it. This used to be a decent hill, and it was a good measure of how much trouble you were or weren't going to have. Again, I think last time I was here, there was another group behind us, and they had to tow an 80 series up this hill. I got up the next hill with some extended winching last time, but yeah, it's all changed now. You can see here it's a nice, smooth, hard-packed surface, and hopefully it'll stay that way for a while. Where this track's been cut through, you can see it's like a fire trail, so they've cleared either side quite a lot. There's not a lot of trees very close to the track, so there's not a lot of winching opportunities if you did have to winch. So, just coming up and heading on to the next hill in his FJ Cruiser. Dan in his Prado, and Luca in his GU Patrol. So it's a good steady climb up here. Not difficult in the current conditions by any stretch of the imagination. You can see that Paul's just gone over one of the washout hubs to divert water off the track and try and minimise the water erosion on the hill, which is a good thing. And it's a lot firmer and more hard-packed than it used to be. Again, this was kind of prone to being very soft when there'd been some rain, and also being very loose on the surface as well, which tended to make it interesting. You can see the guys there throwing up a little bit of dust, particularly probably Luca with his mud terrains. And yeah, the guys have all pretty much made it up to the top of that hill.
more steep stuff here.
And yeah, as you just heard from Paul on the radio, more steep stuff here.
Maybe Jason wants to film from here as well.
There is a
What a beautiful track!
Yeah, magic.
There is a second hill after this hill that used to be even more rutted and more difficult than this one. So coming up here, I've just dropped in some footage from July 22 in the Padge. You can see, you know, there were a lot of suckers, a lot of vegetation close to the track. Track was a lot lumpier and rockier and loose. You can see, you know, rutted and loose on top. Car really struggling and fighting for traction. Just two very different tracks. I was working the Padge pretty hard at that time to try and maintain momentum and keep it moving. You can see, you know, four distinct ruts coming down the hill there. And you can see that leaning tree in the distance on the Padge shot. That's the same one we're coming up here on the 76. And we've lost momentum in the Padge, and that was that. We went back and we had another go, and then it was several goes of winching to get up there. But that was then and this is now, and it's pretty much a road now. And look at that view back behind us. These elevated tracks in the high country afford you some of the best views that you will get anywhere, and you know, it's so different to going to a lookout and just enjoying the view. With these tracks, you know, you're getting the view the whole time you're driving along. So coming down off that hill and starting the next climb, this one's sort of in two stages. You climb the first section and then there's another section up over the top. So much of this drive is a spur drive where you're up on a spur with the track or the hill falling away both sides. So Dan has stayed back to film this. There's Paul in the lead, me in the 76, and Luca following me up. And again, these long shots hopefully give you guys just a little bit of a sense of scale of how big these hills are that we're talking about here. So Paul's just crested the corner and getting ready to start the final climb. And the rest of us, me and Luca, are following him along. A little bit of footage here from Luca. You can see the track was in quite good condition through here as well. Diversion there off to the side to try and push the water off the track and minimise the erosion. But maintaining good contact with the surface with all the wheels.
There go the ears.
And yeah, you just heard we're climbing up in altitude, and there go the ears. Pressure equalisation. And again, back to that long shot from Dan, which shows you hopefully just how big that hill actually is. This area was heavily affected by the bushfires, which is why the trees here are looking a bit fuzzy, but they're recovering well. It's now sort of 4 years on from those bushfires. And as you can see, we're cresting the top of this hill. Dan followed us along. There's Iron Emu making short work of it. And from here it's just a matter of continuing to push on. Every time you think you've climbed to the top on this hill, you sort of crest a little rise, and there's another one in front of you quite often, or you go down a little bit and then you climb again. And one of the things I love about driving these tracks through this route is, as you'll see later on, several times you come up over the crest of a hill and you can see the next 5, 6, 7 kilometres of track just stretching out across the hills in front of you. It's quite amazing. Definitely recommend this drive to anyone that loves the high country, especially with the track in the condition it is now. It's not a difficult track like it used to be by any stretch of the imagination. So you can see there some great views off to the left hand side, making some reasonable pace across the crest of this ridge line, and with the trees cleared away to either side as much as they are, it does give you great views. As I said earlier, you crest the hill and lo and behold there's another one right in front of you. You can see there where they've graded the track and just piled the rocks up under the trees there. And each hill just seems to reveal the next one. Just letting the dust clear a little bit before I follow Paul up there. And look at those views off to the right there where you can see through the trees as we're driving this ridge. A little bit out of field of view now. But yeah, the track is only ever flat for a short period of time. It doesn't stay that way for very long at all. And you can see the way Paul disappeared there. Reasonably steep little drop here before climbing up that hill on the next side. So just eased up to it and changed down a gear so I can use my engine braking to control the descent speed through here. Not that that's too much of a concern with the track in the condition that it is currently. That will change over time, of course. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the Yarrabulla Creek Track works its way along and joins on to the Yarrabuck Track. You can access the northern end of the Yarrabuck Track from Goldie Spur, but it's a much more interesting drive to come in this way. So you could come in from Buckland Valley, Goldie Spur Track and then Yarrabuck Track and pick up this trip, or you could come in the way we did and instead of taking Yarrabulla Creek you could take Goldie Spur and then Yarrabuck, but I definitely would recommend taking this one. So as you just saw there on screen, guys, we've turned right onto the Yarrabuck Track. We're now heading south towards Buffalo Range Track and Mt Selwyn, and look at those views. Like, that just never gets old for me. Views like that are the reason I come up into the high country. There's just something about it that gives you the feeling of being away from civilization and away from everything. Working our way down the range here. Again, these have all got a reasonable gradient to them, but nothing so steep that it's going to be overly difficult or dangerous at all. And this track, much like the last one, is in pretty good condition. Steep little pinch up over this rise here. You don't want to take that too fast, that's for sure. And you can see some of these sections here, like just off to the left, how quickly the track actually does fall away. Slowing up bit to give Paul some space, which is unusual because usually I'm struggling to keep up with Paul. Particularly now that I'm driving the 76, the manual gearbox, I do tend to drive a bit slower just because the gearing kind of dictates that. Second gear gives you really good engine braking, but does control your speed a lot more than it used to in the Padge. So just working our way down this hill here. And yeah, look, if this sort of country doesn't make you want to get out in the high country, I don't know what will. The Yarrabuck Track and the Buffalo Range Track are all pretty consistent. Don't tend to be too lumpy or too loose. And just made for a really good drive. Again, as we swing around, you can see that view into the distance across the other mountaintops. You just, driving these tracks, you just feel like you're up, you know, on the roof of the world sort of thing. Just love getting out there. Even though I only drove this back in January, as I'm going through and re-editing this and getting ready to upload it, I want to go out and drive this track again. Nice little climb up through here. We've crossed over and just sitting down on the side of the ridgeline for a little bit. Doesn't last too long though. And yeah, once again we're back on the spur track and crest this hill. You can see the track unfolding ahead of us, working its way along the ridges, and some of those ridge lines you can see in that distance there are where we're headed. Very easy run along there before coming to another section where we start to descend. It is quite a long run along Yarrabuck Track. All up it's about 16 kilometres, and we're driving most of that. It's probably only the first maybe 2 kilometres that we don't drive. While it's quite a long track, you can maintain a reasonable speed, and there's so much to enjoy by way of views along the way. It never seems to take a long time. Certainly when you're out there driving it, that's for sure. Here you can see, look, there's a little bit of erosion starting on that section of the track, but again, it's nothing to be overly concerned about. Probably will change over time and get a little looser, but certainly for the foreseeable future, I don't think it'll be too much of an issue. So we've just come up here where Mt Creek Track joins, which is on the right hand side there, and we just continue sort of straight ahead. If you look on the maps, it looks like a left turn, but when you're actually driving it, it's kind of the natural continuation of the track. So we've left Yarrabuck Track and we're now on the Buffalo Range Track. Mt Creek Track would have taken us back to Yarrabulla Road, and that wasn't where we wanted to head. So you're continuing sort of southeast on Buffalo Range Track. This will take us pretty much all the way to Selwyn.
So
Buffalo.
we've done Yarrabulla Creek Track, onto the Yarrabuck Track, and now on Buffalo Range Track, heading towards Mt Selwyn. Driving this steep stuff, this is probably the most consistent long. We've been going up and down these hills for probably a solid couple of hours now that I've done in the 70 series. And I can definitely see why they have changed the gear ratios in the gearbox for both second and fifth gear. I understood very early in the piece why the fifth gear was changed, because it lets you, the higher, taller gear in the newer gearboxes, 2016 onwards, I think, lets you do 100 k's on the freeway at 2,000 instead of 2,500 RPM. But what I've found today, and excuse my voice, I'm still getting over COVID. What I found today is the second gear sometimes is just a little bit too slow, so you change up to third, but then if you slow down too much on the hill in third, it'll stall out on you, but you want the extra pace, whereas I think you get that with the taller second gear in the newer gearboxes. So yeah, I can definitely see why they're doing that. Anyway, really mixed weather so far today. We've had a bit of rain, a bit of clear skies and sunshine, so we'll see what comes.
So yeah, continuing on the Buffalo Range Track, it's about 11 k's, so not quite as long as the Yarrabuck Track. Again, sections like this, you get that nice long view. You can see the track just opening up ahead of you, and every time you crest a hill, the next section of track's revealed, and invariably it's going up and over the next hill along this ridge. This track just follows the spur of the range all the way along, taking you back to Mt Selwyn. So nice step little climb here, and there is an A and a B line option. So on the right is the new track, on the left is the old track. We're taking the old track option.
Yeah, sounds like fun. Well, I've never driven it in the 70, so I have in the patch. I got no lock and no traction control, but I'm willing to give it a go.
So there we go. Paul did say, in case I talked over the top, that he thought having his rear locker in would have been a good idea. So as you just heard, yeah, no lockers, no traction control, running the Bridgestone Supercat road terrains. This is a little rocky and a little lumpy and loose. This is more like what the whole track used to be like before they've graded it and smoothed it out. If I had footage from behind, probably throwing the odd rock out here, but yeah, we still got up there, no worries at all. And just coming up on the top of the track up here, there's Paul on the right. And you can see Paul's FJ stopped just there. And Luca, I think, followed us up there from memory. Dan opted to take the main track on that one, simply because I think he was having some issues with his clutch perhaps at the time, and didn't want to stress it out any more than he absolutely had to. So you can see there the next 3 or 4 hills, the track cresting each one of them right off to that one in the distance, sort of the upper centre left of screen there. It's just unreal when you're driving these kind of tracks and you can just see it snaking its way up over the hills ahead of you, and you can see exactly where you're going to be driving. Another one of those big open valleys where you drive down one side and you can see the track snaking its way up the hill on the next side. Paul's making good time there in the FJ up ahead. And Dan heading off in the 90 series proto, followed by Luca in the GU Patrol. And this is one of the longer, steadier climbs along this section of the Buffalo Range track. So just pulled up to film the guys drive this one. Paul leading off in front in the FJ. So this is the next hill after the one you saw him driving. And again, in these longer shots, having the vehicles for a sense of scale, it gives you an idea of just how big these hills are and how long they are, and the angle of the roofline sort of and the vehicles gives you an indication of how steep they are. You know, they're not so steep that they're overly dangerous or super difficult, but there's certainly a solid hill climb, that's for sure, particularly if you had your vehicle loaded up with some gear. Guys are all making short work of it there, holding convoy. And as you can see here, just reaching that final part of the climb, which is a steeper section again. And it is one of those hills that just seems to keep going and going when you're on it. So as we pull back down, you get a bit more of another look at the whole hill. And the whole climb there from the bottom. So yeah, no, very steady drive. So of course I followed the guys. This track hasn't changed a lot in the years I've been driving it. It's maintained itself in pretty good condition. So just up the first section there, a little bit of a flatter section through here before starting that last climb. And here's some footage that Dan shot for me looking back. So I was filming from that first hill, and you can see the track snake its way back behind us across all those ridge lines. And hopefully this camera angle gives you a little bit of an idea of just how steep this hill is. Climbing our way up. And once again, you know, this is a very steep section of the ridgeline spur track. You can see there on the left just how steep it's dropping away, and even on the right there it's fairly steeply dropping away as well. And the track just unfolding, snaking its way through the hills ahead of us, while we get to enjoy that amazing vista of the hills all around us. I still maintain along this track you get some of the best views of the high country anywhere. We all talk about Blue Rag. Blue Rag's a great track, great views from the Trink Point. I recommend you actually do the rest of Blue Rag as well. I've done a video on that, and we'll talk about Billy Goat, and certainly the views from the Pinnacle Lookout at the top of Billy Goat are probably second to none. But this is definitely up there as well, this whole track. Another good steady climb here. Again, this has been graded. Still kind of rocky. Used to be a lot more rocky and a lot looser. And you definitely don't want to follow each other too closely up this section because the vehicles will tend to spit rocks out, that's for sure. And you don't want one of them hitting the front of your car or going through your windscreen. Yeah, look, in its current condition, it's an easier drive than it used to be, and probably will remain that way for some time until it gets a significant amount of traffic on it. And you might remember earlier in this video I mentioned about kind of 4 seasons in one day, so that rain that we had earlier has long since vanished, and you know, there's a bit of cloud around, but you know, blue skies everywhere. It turned into a cracking day, and with views like this, how could you not enjoy it? Every hill, just the vista opens up as you crest the hill, and you see what's coming up ahead. Now I did miss a couple of Ks of filming there. I'm not sure what happened, but we finished the end of Buffalo Range Track and we're on the Mt Selwyn Road, I think, or the tail end of Buffalo Range Track. It's a little bit unclear, but if you know the area, the Selwyn helipad is up to our left on the hill up from this track, and this track comes out at the intersection there at Selwyn, where Mt Selwyn Road and this track and Walsh's track all sort of intersect. And we're turning right here to continue on the Mt Selwyn Road. Now this is the first time I've driven this track in a long time because it's been closed for forestry work for quite a long time. You might remember last year I did a video on the Padge. I came up here, I had lunch up at the helipad there, which is up to the left of where we are now, and this was all fenced off. So they've turned this section of Mt Selwyn Road into just about a super highway. I think this has got some concrete in it, this gravel. I mean, obviously they've got some forestry activity up in here, but you know, this track around the backside of the Selwyn Summit used to be prone to becoming soft, wet, boggy. There was some decent bog holes around here back in the day, and that's just not the case anymore. It's almost a super highway. The track condition back there almost encourages you to drive faster than you should. It was still loose on the surface, so something to be wary of. But yeah, a couple of Ks, here we are, turning left on the Mt Selwyn Summit track. Now, I like to get up on top of Mt Selwyn pretty regularly if I can. It's one of my favourite spots in the high country, and it's been far too long since I've last been here. First time in the 76. Now, the summit track starts off really easy, kind of lulls you into a bit of a false sense of security. The last 100 metres is where all the action is. In the summit track, you do get some cracking views, of course, on the way up. Now, just before you get to that last section, on the left-hand side of the track, there is a little bit of a parking area. That's, if you can't make it up the last section of the summit track, you can park your car there and walk up. Now, there's always a couple of wombat holes there, and I was very interested to see what kind of condition the summit track might be in today. Luca did mention it was getting tough the last time he drove it, which was more recently than I'd driven it. So yeah, I was keen to see what we might be in for, particularly given open diffs, road terrain, Bridgestone Supercab tyres that I'm running. So no traction control, no lockers. I know I keep saying that, but it makes a huge difference. So this was the first indication that, okay, maybe it's a bit tougher than usual for sure, because you can see there's a Ranger there parked up on the left-hand side. So I'd suggest he's had a crack and not made it up. So Paul's going up first in the twin-locked FJ. Now, I don't know if he had both his lockers engaged, can see there, he's lost a bit of traction and he's reversing back to reset. Now, it's possible that that first go he didn't have his lockers in, but what that was telling me, because I don't have lockers to put in, was that I was going to be in for an interesting drive. So, yeah, the Paul's just reversed back there to a point where he can start off and try and get some momentum. And I dare say he's put both his lockers in. And a little bit of movement and bouncing, but he's made his way up. Nicely done. So I knew I was going to need some momentum. A little bit slow on the gear change there from first to second. The dark spots are wombat holes. On the right, on the left, on the right again, left, and then on the right. So trying to span those wombat holes, and then we get up to the rock where there's also wombat holes in the rock. A few guys already up there watching, and that just wasn't going to happen on that line. I could see that I'd lost traction. One wheel at the front in the air, one wheel at the back in the air with open diffs. It's just not going to happen. I need to attack this differently. So I couldn't go forward even from there. So again, I need to reverse back and have another go at this. You can see the decent sized wombat holes there. So a bit of momentum, a bit of right foot. We've gone left, all the way back right again. And just starting to get the traction. And there it is.
And he's up.
So yeah, heavy right foot has done the job. So yeah, tricked out 79 series there on the right. Another dual cab ute, and Paul's FJ. I just pulled up next to him. So coming up behind us is Dan in the 90 series. And he's going to make it look so much easier than we did. So some good line choice. Toyota traction control doing its thing. And Dan's just making this look pretty easy. He's got a fairly new Pettis suspension kit under that 90 series.
Crikey, Dan, you made that look so easy.
Nicely.
And he did. He did make it look easy. And Lukey coming up in the twin locked GU. And again, no fuss, no muss. Lockers certainly help. So do decent tyres.
Current condition on the Selwyn Summit track, challenging. Let's just say that. Certainly don't want to be trying to drive up here when it's wet, that's for sure.
Is not doing that justice at all. So just taking in the view up here on top of Selwyn. It's a nice open summit, so you can get views nearly in all directions. Guys that were up here headed off, they just stopped for lunch, and we're just stopping for a late lunch. So yeah, cracking views from up here. That's the new Mt Selwyn Road that Forestry have cut in, a little bit like a superhighway, but you don't want to drive too fast on it because big drop-offs on the edge. Now over the back here, not too far off the summit, there is a memorial plaque. And as you can see on the screen, in memory of Dylan Joseph Taylor, who passed away 30th of November 2015. From what I understand, he was a pretty avid high country hunter and spent a lot of time up here and was a member of a couple of hunting clubs. And it's nice the family were able to put a memorial there in a place that, from what I understand, he spent a lot of time. So time for a lunch break. Guys, I hope you've enjoyed this video. We've got so much more to come on this trip. We're doing the entire Humphrey River track from here, which I've never done the full length of it before, always ducked off at the water spur. And then from there we're going up to Mount Hart and then down over the other side on the Tea Tree Spur. So guys, as always, thanks for watching, particularly if you've watched this far. Please like this video if you liked it, leave a comment in the comments section, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel, as a lot of our viewers who are watching our videos aren't actually subscribers. We'd love to see the percentage of subscribers to viewers actually go up. I will catch you in the next video, guys. So much more to come on this one. Thanks again. Have a great day.